Yes, I am a doctor by profession or by training, and I'm glad that she's telling you that you have to chew books. I have chewed them. I lost hair because kukunakuna kichwa, transniting. I remember one time I worked. Yes, I worked, and in the morning I'm going to bed. My sister is going to make tea. Nililala kwa kiti the whole night. That is what happens when you get into this journey. When you feel you are into it, you can get into it the whole night. So yes, Mom, those of us who want to study, be ready to really put in a lot. It is not, I will not tell you it's a walk in the park. But as she says, honorably, it's just what it is. If you really have to get the respect for it, then work for it. What is the challenge now is walking people the journey, because if you become a doctor, your work is to walk the people the journey. So mine, I'm just humbled because I am a lecturer at Karatina University. That is where I work. And I thank God for it, because every day, what I am doing is nothing else other than telling these young people it is doable. There are no jobs. And the first thing I tell them, I am here because there are no jobs. It's not just in Kenya, it is a global issue. There are no jobs. But I'm here to tell you that despite the fact that there are no jobs, you have the ability to create those jobs. So I believe my essence of being here today is to make it possible for us to see the opportunities that we have and those that we have ignored, for us to make our lives better. Having said that, I can't forget to go back to the prophet and ask him, why were you laughing so much when the presenter was actually hitting? It's because he knows that many of us are where the presenter was saying. Mom says, some of us have cancer, some of us have what? And the prophet will tell you, like he told me one day, it doesn't matter what strategy I come up with. You remember that, prophet? It doesn't matter what strategy I come up with to get myself out of where I am. Some things are biblical. So I was feeling tempted to ask the presenter, and where did you leave the issue of biblical? Because some of us are suffering not because we don't know how to get ourselves out of it. It's because some of these things are spiritual. So, prophet, you'll be seeing many of us, because as we are trying to get the journey to where we ought to be, then you'll discover it is not about strategy. It's about first getting God into it and make sure that everything is put right for us to get where we must be. Yes, a mother I am. I am a mother of 2 adults. So other than teaching, I am a mother. Other than being a mother, I do a lot of consultancy. And because I come from Nanyuki, inaitagwa mwisho wa leri. Si mnajua, huko ndio mambo saa zingine inatukanganyaga. My masters, I wanted to do it on prostitution, because that is where I witnessed prostitution with my own eyes. And I wanted to do my masters on prostitution. And I was told, yes, you can, but not the only one, because it's one of the issues that affect businesses. So when I completed my work, the voice of the Lord told me, go to Nairobi. because I was interested in consultancy. And when I came in 2020, God opened a door because somebody was looking for a consultant, and someone knew I had done entrepreneurship. So she looked for me, and since then I have been doing a lot of work in helping children who are sexually exploited. So you see, masters, I want to do something on prostitution, and now brings me back to work to help people who are sexually exploited. So that is what I do other than teaching. Yes, and I still feel like Mom is challenging me and telling me to do more, and I'm seeing my thing as skills center. A skills center. So that many of us who want jobs, and they are saying we can't get jobs, so how can we get them doing these skills that can actually make them earn a living? So that is who I am, as simple as I am, and I want to thank God for it, so that I now dive into what brought me here this morning. I'm invited to teach about entrepreneurship because I say this is what I do on a day-to-day basis, that I teach entrepreneurship. And this being a church function, the starting point now will not be the learning outcomes, because there will tell you what are the learning outcomes. Here, I want to first of all base my teaching on the Bible. What does the Bible say about entrepreneurship? So I took time to look at what the Bible says about entrepreneurship. And the first, there are so many verses, so many. But for purposes of my teaching, I'm just going to focus on three. So the first one is Jeremiah 1:5. The one that is so plain, that before we were all formed in our mother's womb, God knew about us. So before you were born, you are consecrated by God. So my big question to you today is, are you living? Are you doing what the Lord intended you to do? That is a great question, because when you look at the theme of this workshop, occupy until I come. So what shall you be doing until the Lord comes? Have you taken time to ask yourself what you are doing? Is this what God intended you to do? Could we be doing what God did not want us to be doing? Is it possible when He comes back, we shall not even have started to do what He intended us to do? I feel that it is important for each one of us to be sure that what they are doing is what God intended them to do. Because before you're born, He knew about you. Everything about you was laid down. Rick Warren, in his book, Purpose-Driven Life, he's very categorical. What are you doing with your life? Are you doing what the Lord intended you to do? Chances are, we are not. Chances are, we are not. So, in his book, he encourages us to discover God's purpose for our lives. He encourages us to discover the purpose of God in our lives. Some of us are 40, some of us are 50, and we are asking, Is this the time we are discovering what God intended for us? I'm sure it is never too late for us to discover what God intended for us, because he will come back and he will require an answer from us. So I want to believe that Rick Warren was very, very concerned about the many people on earth. And the big question is each one of us doing what God intended us to do? So it's time for us to inquire that, God, am I doing exactly what you intended me to do? So that you shall be in line with what, or the purpose for God having you here on earth. And if you think that is not enough, the next verse, Matthew 25:14-30, is a true reflection of what will happen when God comes. Because that shows us that God gave some talents to people. 3 men were given talents. One was given 5, another was given 2, another was given 1. And God went. And after some time, he came back to demand. From the 5, what did he give? Gave 5. To the 2, what did he get? 2. And to the 1, nothing. Because he thought God was trying to sow where he had not. That alone told me that God has every reason to have us do what he intended us to do. And, you know, there are times as Christians we think that people who are making money are doing the wrong thing. Is that right? Even some of us want to believe that there's even a belief that when you become very rich, who are you serving? Huyu alienda kwa devil worshiper. And Christians are asking, is it only the devil who gives? From this passage, what does that tell you? That God intends us to do what? To work and to multiply what he gives us. So it means as Christians, we are created to be wealthy. So if it is wrong for you to be wealthy, then why is he rebuking the one who did not multiply what he gave him? No, I have a problem with us who believe that those who are making a lot of money are worshiping the devil. No, it is wrong. And you see, people have tried to live like poor people because you don't want to be said you're worshiping who? So what does Matthew 25:14-30 have to tell us about the Bible and what God thinks about us? Why did he rebuke that person who did not multiply? Honestly, there is a notion that those who are rich are evil. But this should tell us that you're not evil when you're working hard and generating what? Revenue. So this should be an indication that God intended us to work and make money and create wealth. So for me, I will never stop to say that those who work and make money are actually doing the will of who? Of God. So stop looking at people and branding them devil worshippers because they have money. It is God who has asked us to work and make more out of what he has given us. So that is something that tells me entrepreneurship is something that is ordained of God. Hey, there is another one here. Deuteronomy 8:18. Deuteronomy 8:18. That one, another one that now leaves me more baffled than before. When you look at people who work very hard, who do you think works very hard according to you? Ni watu gani hao unafikiria wanafanya kazi sana, wanafaa kuwa na pesa nyingi? Kwangu mimi ni watu wa matatu. Saa 10 wako nje wakigonga matatu, si ndio? But is that the case? I'm sorry, no malice at all. But is that the case? Are they the ones with the most money? No. No. So let's not look at jobs and think that because you're working very hard, that is a justification for you to be making a lot of money. No. There is another power somewhere. It is God who allows you to make wealth. So you could be selling a kiosk and in it, you're happy. Like when I'm teaching entrepreneurship, I normally have a lesson where I have 2 examples. One person is selling a supermarket, another one is selling a kiosk. So I ask them, what would you go for? Many would go for supermarket. So we start now the practical aspect of it. Rent ya supermarket ni ngapi? 50,000. Ya kiosk ni 2,000. Tunaenda, salary ni hivi, hii ni hii. Hapa chini ni pesa ngapi? Wa supermarket akona negative what? Ana make losses. Wa kiosk smiling all the way to the bank. So which business is better? It depends on what you make at the end of the month. So it doesn't matter whether you're selling a kiosk or you're selling a supermarket. It depends on what you are making at the end of the month. So when it comes to Deuteronomy 8:18, we are told that it doesn't matter what you do, it is God who allows us to do what? To make wealth. So again, go back to the first one. That are you doing what the Lord intends you to do? Because he's the one who will allow you to do what? To make wealth. Because if you're doing what he intends you to do, then he's actually going to allow you to make wealth. So for me, when I look at it, I see that entrepreneurship is a concept that is anchored in the Bible. It is a concept that is anchored in the Bible because there are verses that will help us understand what it is from a biblical point of view. So does the Bible present any entrepreneurs? Does the Bible present any entrepreneurs? Yes, it does. The next slide gives us examples of people that the Bible looks at as entrepreneurs. Was Abraham a poor man? Was he a poor man? In fact, we are told he was very, very wealthy. God allowed him to make what? Wealth. He had livestock, he had gold, he had silver, and he also had very many employees who were trained. So from it, we discover that even people in the Bible who were right with God were allowed to create wealth. So why do you look at yourself making wealth and looking at yourself and what people will say about you? Yet the Bible has allowed people who were right with God made a lot of wealth. So let's stop this issue of looking at people like they have made a lot of wealth. They are, Freemasons, as Prophet is saying. They were right with God. The next one is Solomon. Solomon was another wealthy person. So when we look at the Bible, we find these people were very wealthy. So if money was bad, then why did God allow people whom he used to make wealth? So for me, when I look at these examples, I find them to be people who are right in the eyes of God. So I believe that entrepreneurship was an avenue that was used by faithful men of God to create wealth for themselves. We also have what we have today. And I want to appreciate the churches today. The next slide looks at starting of churches as an entrepreneurial activity. So the pastors, the prophets, the apostles, you are entrepreneurial. But I want to believe that we are not looking at the churches as people who are making money to make themselves wealthy. Because when you look at the churches and we look at men in the Bible, there is Paul, there is Barnabas, there is Timothy, there is Silas. All these people started churches. And to us, that is an entrepreneurial act. And you find that these people were starting churches amidst a lot of opposition, but they still started churches. So the success of the churches that were started then, the measure of their success was not measured in how much they made, but in how many souls they brought to God, and lives that have been changed. Look at what is happening here today. I thank God that I came while that presentation was going on. Look at what is happening in our churches today. I'll talk about this church because it's the church that has invited me. And my prayer is that God allows you to have a church somewhere and see what happens around that church. In entrepreneurship, there's what we call corridor principle. The corridor principle. The corridor principle looks at what other businesses would one business attract. So if we are starting a church around this place, what are the other opportunities that are likely to follow? We all have witnessed Pastor Ezekiel and his church in Coast Province. The reason why we are using this example is to show those of you who have seen that church in Mombasa, what are the businesses associated with Ezekiel's church? You find people cooking food, because when people come to church, Some may not even go home. They may want to stay and maybe join another service, so they'll want to eat. What are the other businesses that are likely to be started around that church? So this is why when you look at the church in itself, it becomes an entrepreneurial opportunity. But it is a different type of a business, because we are not using, or we are not measuring the success of a church using money. So the kind of entrepreneurship that the churches start is what we call social entrepreneurship, because it's about touching the lives of people. Mom has organized this conference for you. Many people will be invited to impart knowledge to you. So the church sees the need to serve people in different ministries. Suitable helpers. I visited her office. She has a long list, long list of different things that she is doing. And may God help you to achieve and touch lives of people. Because that is what now social entrepreneurship is all about. So when you look at the church or starting of churches, we look at it as an entrepreneurial activity. Because in it, lives are changed. In it, people are empowered. In it, many other businesses come into existence. Businesses that would not have been if the church was not started. So even starting churches in itself is an entrepreneurial activity. So I thought it wise to give that background, because there is nothing that is without God's existence. So even entrepreneurship is a concept that is anchored in the Bible. It is a concept that is anchored in the Bible. So we also have many other people who are presented as entrepreneurs in the Bible. We have the apostles who were running fishing businesses. So to them, they were entrepreneurial because they started fishing businesses. Matthew was a tax collector. So even him, he was an entrepreneur. So in his tax collection business, he was an entrepreneur. Apostle Paul made tents. He was an entrepreneur. Luke practiced medicine. He was a doctor. He was an entrepreneur. So I want to say that the Bible has actually evidenced that entrepreneurship is an ancient concept. But I want to say that when I wanted to get into entrepreneurship, I didn't get into it because I knew what it was, but I got into it because I was pushed. Because the government is always changing policy. I was trained to be a high school teacher, but time came when the government trained too many arts teachers. And so the government decided all arts teachers be moved to primary school. If anybody is a teacher here would understand what I'm talking about. So some teachers who were in high school who didn't want to go and teach in primary school decided to look for an avenue, an escape avenue. So there was a course that was being introduced at KTTC in 1996 to train entrepreneurship, because that is when entrepreneurship was taking ground globally because of the issue of unemployment. So entrepreneurship was seen as a strategy to empower people out of the problem of unemployment. So some of my colleagues did not go to primary. I did. I came to Nairobi. I was teaching in a primary school, and I didn't really have a problem with that. So some went now to KTTC to do entrepreneurship, and that's how now I joined my friends to do entrepreneurship at KTTC. So it is a strategy that was adopted by most governments, that every learning institution, every institution of higher learning must introduce entrepreneurship as a course to teach people how to start and run their own businesses. So that is how now I found myself into entrepreneurship. And that is how entrepreneurship was introduced in our country. So around 1990, the debate started in the country. So having given a background to the Bible and entrepreneurship, now I want to get now to the scholarly field and be able now to define this terminology. Define this terminology. When I start, I normally ask my students to tell us what it is to gauge their level of understanding. And I want to just hear from maybe someone. Other than what I have presented there, what is your view of what entrepreneurship is? What would you say it is? When it is mentioned, what comes to your mind? What is this entrepreneurship? Someone who would share their understanding of what it is. Anyone who would want to share with us what they think it is? You'd want to try? Yes, what do you think, or rather, what do you say it is from where you sit? Amen. For profit. Exchange of goods or services for profit. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So to her, entrepreneurship is just the exchange of goods and services for profit. And me, I'm asking now, what is now the difference between what you've told us and business? Because, see, there is business. Now, what is business? What is business? According to her, entrepreneurship is exchange of goods and services for profit. Then what is business? Someone else to tell us what is business. It's very important, because even before this concept came, we were still doing business. So where will we draw a line? At least by the time I leave, you should be knowing whether you are an entrepreneur or you are a business person. By the end of this presentation, you will ask yourself, from what has been presented, am I an entrepreneur or am I a mere, I call them mere business, men and women. So what is business? That is her concept of entrepreneurship. So what is business? What is business? From where you sit, who is in business? Who is doing business? To tell us what business is. Yes, thank you.
Praise the Lord.
Amen.
So I will say that business is activities that take place around production, distribution, and even manufacturing of goods and services with the name of making profit.
With an aim of making profit. So it's production, it is a distribution of goods and services with the aim of making profit. Both of them, see, it's still what you've said. Where would we draw a line between the two? I thought you are describing the process of coming up with goods and services. Am I right? But you used many words so that now business looks like it is more advantageous and more powerful than entrepreneurship, because yours you just used a few words. But both of them we are making what? Profit. Both of them we are making profit. So my presentation today, I should be able to draw a line between what is entrepreneurship, what is intrapreneurship, and what is mere business. Yeah, biashara ni nini? Because there is a difference. Yes. Solving the problem of the customer. So business is solving problems for customers. So that now entrepreneurship does not solve. It is well. It is well. Let's see where we shall draw a line between all these. Someone there, yes?
I want to try about entrepreneurship.
Yes.
I think it's self-employment.
Self-employment. I like that. It's self-employment where you're working for yourself. No, you've not employed people. Yes, thank you. All these answers are valid because somewhere you will find that they will fit in. They will fit in. But now we need clarity on the difference between them. Are we together? So when we look at the term entrepreneurship, it is a French word that means, I'm not a French woman, entrepredi, that normally just represents an undertaking with some risk involved in the process of starting a business. So it is a French word. It is a French word that means an undertaking with some aspect of risk. I like now defining what risk is. What is a risk? Because you can define a term and you find that within a term, there is a term that needs to be defined. So what is a risk? There are those things that we used to do and we are told when the deal is too good, what are we supposed to do? The former presenter was talking about those ones. He has actually told us that it is only God to be trusted. Everybody else we must do what? Validate. Because of the risk involved. So we are asking, what is a risk? And we are saying it is an undertaking whose outcome is not known. A risk is an undertaking whose outcome is not known, but must be subjectively evaluated. So what the presenter was telling us is that lazima tu fafanue huu mtu ambaye tunataka ku-engage ni mtu mzuri, because you must engage him. So when we look at entrepreneurship, we are saying that it is an undertaking where some element of risk is involved. So risk is involved where entrepreneurship is. Yes, let's first of all get that it is an undertaking where risk is involved. It will not be right for me to have stood before you and fail to introduce to you the gurus of entrepreneurship. As a scholar, I will have failed you not to have talked about the gurus of this concept. So the first guru is Richard Cantillon. Richard Cantillon. And according to him, he defines entrepreneurship as, or defines an entrepreneur as someone who buys goods at a certain price to sell tomorrow at an unknown price. Hence, the concept of risk comes in. Because when you go to Miriti, you buy goods to go and stock in your kiosk. You buy at maybe Kitungu at 130. I was there buying 130 because I found in my kiosk they were going for 165. So I decided, why not try and become entrepreneurial? So I went to Miriti. I bought them at 130. So if I wanted to sell them, maybe I was going to buy so that I could go and sell at 200 or 165 like everyone else. And by the time I am at the market, there is going to be a price change. And now the prices are going to go lower. So I bought at 130, hoping to sell at 160. And the prices are going to go lower, and we are going to sell the kitungu at 100 shillings. Nimeenda hasara ya pesa ngapi? 30 shillings. So, Richard Cantillon looks at entrepreneurship, or at an entrepreneur, sorry, as someone who buys goods at a known price to sell tomorrow at an unknown price. Hence, the concept of risk comes in. And when you look at what entrepreneurship is, we said it's an undertaking where some risk is involved. So this is one person who looks at an entrepreneur as a risk taker. A risk taker. So you can't be an entrepreneur if you are risk averse. Kuna watu hapa wanaogopa, hata kuishi wanaogopa. Yes, yes, yes. You cannot be an entrepreneur if you are not daring. Because entrepreneurship is risk taking. Some of us have burnt our fingers because we saw. We are there where that person was saying because of that risk-taking propensity. So if you're risk averse is somebody who does not take risks. Mwenye anaogopa. You see, I almost told him, you people are risk averse. This is why everything has to go to pen and paper. Because it will not work. At times you have to allow yourself. Because if you don't, at times you will lose and you will say, I wish I knew. But that does never help anyone. So Richard Cantillon looks at an entrepreneur as someone who is a risk taker. Now let's look at another guru. The other guru now is Joseph Schumpeter. Joseph Schumpeter. Yes. This one now introduces something that I am so passionate about and what is happening in our society today. So Joseph Schumpeter looks at an entrepreneur as an innovator. So the world today is all about innovation. We are talking about innovations. M-Pesa, sijui nini nini, everything revolves around innovation. And when we look at the concept of entrepreneurship, innovation is what defines entrepreneurship. So according to Joseph Schumpeter, he looks at an entrepreneur as an innovator who carries out new factors of production. Someone was defining business there, was talking about new markets, was talking about new distribution, was talking about new production methods. So according to Joseph Schumpeter, entrepreneurs are people who are always looking for new ways of doing things. How will you do things differently? You are using this raw material before. Can you change and look at how you can use a local material so that you can bring down what? Costs. So new combinations to initiate new processes or new economic development. Now we are in a crisis, and unless we look for new ways of doing things. Now the other day I saw Nyeri Polytechnic has come up with a car. They are showcasing a car that is going to use solar. And they are saying that car is going to go there. It was going for 750. And they said once allowed to manufacture, they want to bring it down to 500. Si sasa kila mtu ataendesha gari. That is looking for new combinations to produce. And that is innovation. And Joseph Schumpeter is one person who has introduced something we call the creative destructive theory. Creative destructive theory. And I want to demonstrate. Look at the waves, the way they go. Waves go like this. So that creative destructive theory is the theory that tells us that due to the changes that people are coming up with in the market today, you have to be very careful when doing business, because that creative destructive theory can render you irrelevant. Because before, we used to take a very long period of time to produce a product. There were new products, and those new products that were introduced in the market were called inventions. And the market today is not ready for inventions. Why? Tumekoniwa. Wangapi walikoniwa na desi? Wangapi walikoniwa na desi? Sasa sijui ni gani iko kwa market at the moment. So because of those new things that were conning us, people have decided no more inventions. Let's go for innovations. What are innovations? Improvements of what already exists. Mtu akija kukuzia kitu unamuuliza na hiyo ni nini? Because unataka kujua ni kitu iko ama ni kitu mpya. And then when you look at that destructive theory, the longer it meant it took a very long time for you to introduce a new product in the market. But now with innovations, that is very short, very short. I want you to see this big one. That product that you take 10 years, somebody has innovated it about 5 times. So by the time you start producing a totally new product to introduce it in the market, 10 years, somebody has changed that thing 5 times. So by the time you're introducing it in the market, imebadilishwa mara ngapi? So ukienda kwa soko, you are launching. And then someone will ask you, this one, hii tulitumia miaka 5 iliyopita. And you're like, What? You've spent time, you spent money. What happens to you? Loss. So the market is not ready for new things. So Joseph Schumpeter says that the market is always looking for new ways of doing things, those innovations, those new things, those new ways of doing things, so that now we cannot afford to come up with a totally new product, waste all the time and money in the market, only to come and launch it, and we are asked, where were we? Hiyo tulitumia miaka 5 iliyopita. So Joseph Schumpeter believes that people are innovative. So you have to be very careful. When you want to introduce a product in the market, ask yourself, was it introduced yesterday before you spent time and money? So according to Joseph Schumpeter, the entrepreneur or the entrepreneurship is about innovation, better ways of doing things, so that we avoid the totally new product that take all the time and all the money, yet when it gets to the market, nobody is ready for it. That is a caution to us who are in business. And that is what has rendered many people irrelevant in the market. The third one is Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker. And before I look at Peter Drucker, Joseph Schumpeter's definition of who an entrepreneur is and entrepreneurship says that process of creative destruction is what leads to new sources of raw material. Like now we have products locally that were rendered irrelevant. But with Joseph Schumpeter, he's saying, look at what you have in your society and see how you can create value out of what you have. So give new meaning to your raw material, because it can become relevant to your country. It is also the process of creating new organizations. So if we are to embrace this, what was not important then will become important now. And it is also the process of us starting new businesses in our society. So Peter Drucker believes that entrepreneurs are the change agents. Entrepreneurs are change agents. They are the people who bring about change. How do they bring about change? By responding. Someone said that a business is solving problems. So you identify problems in society, you respond to them, and you offer solutions. So entrepreneurs are the change agents. They are the change agents. We have so many gurus, but I chose to just look at 3. You see, even if it becomes a lesson now, by the end of it all, I'll be talking to myself. So this is not a lesson that we call UCC 300. No. This is just a session where we need understanding of what it is. So sharing 3, and then we can go and read about others would be good. So if these are the gurus, who do we say entrepreneurs are? Because we always add our voices. Because at times, like when I was asking you to define what an entrepreneur is, you said Joyce. So it is Joyce 2023. It is you. By the way, what you define is right. Every definition is valid, and it is going to be your definition this year. So adding to my voice, who is an entrepreneur? And I always say that entrepreneurs are people with eyes that other people don't have. I can see someone agreeing with me. She is. There are people with eyes that other people don't have. You know, at times I believe I talk. Naongea kwa sauti. So when we say entrepreneurs are people, that voice is not good. Are people with eyes that others don't have. I keep asking my students, do they have pink eyes? Do they have squared eyes? Why do you think we look at them as people with eyes that other people don't have? What are these eyes seeing? What are these eyes seeing? Yes? Market gaps. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Market gaps. Someone is really happy. True. The gaps, and those are the ones that you're calling opportunities. So they have eyes that other people don't have. Have you ever seen someone come up with a business and you're like, where did you get this one from? Where umefikiria? You know, there are people who come up with ideas and you're like, this person amefikiria. So there are people with eyes that other people don't have. So the other definition for me is that there are people who see order where other people are seeing confusion. You know, there are people who only see confusion. Entrepreneurs will never see confusion. Out of that confusion, entrepreneurs will always find something valuable. And I want to give a good example. Corona. We talk of Corona millionaires. We talk of Corona millionaires. And today I want to evidence those millionaires for you. The only thing I must do is acknowledge as a scholar. Otherwise, you could be the owner of that innovation here and you can sue me. The first one is Kenyatta University students who came up with a ventilator. Remember, we were dying. We were dying. And there were no ventilators. And quickly, entrepreneurs, those who knew what it took, came up with those machines. And for sure, they made their millions. They made their millions. Students at the university made their millions. This other one is somewhere in Githunguri. Some youths in Githunguri made beds because beds were needed. We turned institutions. What were we calling those places where we used to take people? The isolation camps. So we needed beds like yesterday. And youths from Githunguri came up with beds. Came up with beds that were used. And they made their millions. There is also Kitui County. A project called Kikotech. I know Kitui County because my sister is married to one of the people from Ukambani. So I know a lot about Kitui and what was happening. In fact, I was supposed to go and do a documentary for that particular project called the Kikotech. They made masks. So the county made a lot of money from the masks. And my showstopper today is this young girl here. I don't know whether, I don't know. Did you ever come across that song? That is, I'm just wondering, it's just a young girl, very young, very young. According to me, she's not even 10. And her music is in YouTube. And those who know, when you have your music in YouTube or you have your content in YouTube, anybody who looks at it, you're earning some money. Everybody was there. This is a song I would listen to every day, especially that time. It was a song that really made us resonate. It is well. It is well. It is well. When you listen to the song, look at the young girl, you're like, a lot of thinking went into that song. Look at the age. She was able to document how it started until it was declared, and how they were not supposed to go to school. You listen to it, you're like, what makes me happy is that people had to go and look for this girl in our village to really understand, how did she get to its confusion? We are here, tumejifungia kwa nyumba, tunafikiria maisha inaisha. Young girl here is coming up with a song. So when we're in the midst of confusion, others are busy thinking, and you're like, how did they do it? How did they do it? It is because not everybody has what it takes to become an entrepreneur. Kuna wale tunasindikishana tu. Tunasindikishana tu. It's unfortunate. So when I look at this young girl, she's one of my COVID millionaire, because I can imagine how many people, it's a song that was played over and over again. And I'm sure even now, it is still played and she's still earning. So her life may never be the same again. Just like the students in Kenyatta University and the youths in Githongori. I'm sure we have examples of the COVID millionaires from our villages. So what we are saying is that entrepreneurs are people who see opportunities in the midst of confusion. So with that, I believe I have now said or painted a picture of who an entrepreneur is. So when we talk about entrepreneurs, we are focusing on the business context. So entrepreneurship is in the business context. And so before I'm asked a question, does it mean that entrepreneurs are only found in businesses? I want to say that we also have entrepreneurs in the corporate world. So when we look at corporate entrepreneurship, we have entrepreneurs, but we don't call them entrepreneurs, we call them intrapreneurs. We call them intrapreneurs. So this concept of entrepreneurship, intrapreneurship, is, and maybe I could be speaking to people who have companies here or organizations. The question is, have you allowed your employees to be entrepreneurial? Remember, entrepreneurs are people who fill gaps, who want to look at new ways of doing things. They look at things and how you're doing them, and they think you can do them better. Have you allowed them space and room to do them? At times, entrepreneurs will need extra time. They'll need extra money. Have you made provision for that in your company so that this entrepreneur can help you? I want to take case with Safaricom. Safaricom, when we think of the M-Pesa innovation, it did not come from a very senior employee in Safaricom. It came from a very junior employee. But because Safaricom has allowed entrepreneurship to take place in its organization, this is why now that employee was allowed to innovate and to come up with that M-Pesa idea. So who is the beneficiary today? I believe Safaricom is minting money out of that innovation. The young man, every shilling that you, like this, inaingiaga kwa nani? Kwa the innovator. So personally, my greatest responsibility now at the university is to encourage my students to become innovative. Wengine ninawauliza, do you have an innovation that cannot wait? I take you to the VC and I tell the VC that this man cannot sit in class. Let's allow him to step aside and go and work on his innovation. Akimaliza ataamua kama atarudi kusoma ama atarudi. Because the innovations don't wait for you. If you wait, somebody else is going to pick it and run with it. I have talked about the creative distraction theory. It is that short circles. Somebody else is going to come up with something more superior than yours. So we are saying entrepreneurship is the practice of entrepreneurship in a corporate enterprise. So if you are the manager, allow your staff, give them time, allocate resources for the entrepreneurs to come up with better ways of doing things in your company so that you can reap the benefits. So that entrepreneur is that person who is really motivated, who is an entrepreneur and is turning things around in that company to make things work in the company. So when we think entrepreneurship, let's think about Safaricom and the person behind the M-Pesa idea. It will help us understand what entrepreneurship is in a company. So we cannot say that entrepreneurship is only found in business enterprises only, but it can also be found in corporate enterprises. So I would want to now look at what is this that these people have that make them who they are. I said not everybody. Not everybody. And this is why some may try, but they may not make it, because to be an entrepreneur, you need to have some characteristics. There are some characteristics that are inborn. Others can be learned. So those who score high on inborn characteristics become better entrepreneurs. better entrepreneurs if you score high on the inborn characteristics. So some of the inborn characteristics are hard working. I don't know whether you can teach someone to be hard working. Kama wewe ni mvivu, wewe ni mvivu. Hard working. Perseverance. Unajua kuna watu hawajui ngoja. But for you to be an entrepreneur, you cannot be if you're the kind of person who starts businesses today and closing them tomorrow. Because you want to see results like yesterday. Perseverance and persistence are two very crucial inborn characteristics. There is also what we call tolerance to ambiguity. Tolerance to ambiguity. A very important aspect of entrepreneurship. Tolerance to ambiguity. Ambiguity is A-M-B-I-G-I-T-Y. Ambiguity. Ambiguity are things that are not clear. Remember, if we look at the creation of the ventilators, or let's not talk about the ventilators, let's talk about the M-Pesa idea. You want to tell me it is just as easy as this to come up with an app where two people are going to be connected and money is moving from this end to the other end? Many things will not be clear. They will do things, they'll discover they are not getting the answer, they'll go back to the drawing board, they'll get started again. We are saying, for you to be innovative, many things will not be clear. And that is why we've talked about persistence, perseverance, hard working, because these are things that characterize an innovation. So, we are saying that there are some inborn characteristics that you must have for you to be or to score high as an entrepreneur. But there are other characteristics that cut across and are very key for you to have. And one is vision. One is vision. I'm sure Prophet and the apostle had a vision for this church. And this is why we are here today. It starts with a vision where, when I came, someone was being asked to tell us what their plans are. I've not been planning. And maybe this is why things have not worked for me. We are just about the end of the year. So that 2024, and thank you for allowing us to start thinking about 2024 now. By now, we should be thinking about 2024. So we need to come up with our plans for 2024. So what vision do you have? Because anybody who has a vision knows where he is and where he wants to go. And nothing can stop him from being where he wants to be. Us who have not been planning, fluking through life because we don't have a plan. Because we don't have a vision for ourselves. People who have a vision, like the presenter who was here, you've seen how he's training his children. Christmas time, sisi huku ni kukimbia hapa pale, tuko Mombasa, December. Yeah, amesema anaendaka December ama ni January. When everybody else has gone, that is when he's there. Because he knows and he has a vision for his family. Leo ni siku ya kuambiana ukweli. Ukweli tu. Na siku ya kukubali kule tumekosa, kusudi turudi back to line. So without a vision, my friends, you cannot become an entrepreneur. I look at that man who was coming up with the M-Pesa idea. He knew how that app was going to work from the beginning to the end. But along the way, there must have been real challenges for him. Things that were not clear. He did not even anticipate were going to be there. But they are there, and because he knows where he wants to get, nothing stops him. In fact, when it comes to entrepreneurship, there are times we are told we incubate the idea. Wachana tu nae, iweke kwa mind. And you'll be shocked. In the middle of the night, the answer will come. Entrepreneurs call it the aha effect. Aha, this is the answer I've been looking for. Yes, the aha effect. Because there are times you can also tell me, umekuwa ukistruggle na kitu, unaachana nae. By the way, it doesn't go away. It goes into an incubator in your mind. And the mind works on it and gives you answers. Or unto you if you don't wake up. Because that answer will never come back. So ndio tunaambiwa. Na ndio sababu mamu ukisema mambo na kusoma, tunajikuta tunaamuka because you are working on something. The answer comes at 4 o'clock. Unaamuka 4 because the answer has come. So even in entrepreneurship ni hivo. You've been struggling with something. So that answer comes. Wake up. Document it. Because if you don't, that is going to be the end of that idea. So vision, good interpersonal skills. Hii nitasummarize na kusema hivyo. Saa zingine tunafikiria wanafunzi wale wanapata A ndio watakuwa very successful kwa maisha. Sasa unakuta mtu wa A anakuja kufanyia mtu wa D kazi. Ni kwa sababu ya hiyo interpersonal skills. Wewe hujui kuongea na watu lakini unajua kusolve problems huko. Lakini unajua biashara ni kuongelesha watu vizuri. You can even sell this bottle and cheat them what it is because you have the language. So, interpersonal skills. Ingine ni passion. My friends, if you lack passion for what you do, kuna watu lazima waamushwe, wasukumwe. If you lack passion for what you do, it will never succeed. So entrepreneurs are so passionate about what they do. Very passionate about what they do. Next. The fourth characteristic is that curiosity. When I talked about tolerance to ambiguity, people who are curious are people who want to understand. Some of us have small children. Me, I don't have small ones, but when I had them, you buy my son a car, he wants to see who is that driver, who is driving that car. That is the curiosity entrepreneurs must have. Because you're coming up with an idea, you're so curious about it, to even want to understand and asking questions because you want to understand that idea very well. Willingness to experiment. You can't experiment if you don't collect data. Information seeking. There are people who are always trying out things out there in the field looking for answers, collecting data, and trying to experiment what is going to work or what is not going to work. I want you to look at those characteristics I talked about, persistence and perseverance. It is not a walk in the park. That answers are there for you to pick and run with them. Adaptability. Adaptability. To be adaptable is to be ready to change. Entrepreneurs are not people who are rigid because the market is changing. Even the people you're serving, even the customers themselves, they'll tell you we don't want this. You can't force them. You wouldn't force them. So, for you to be an entrepreneur, you have to be very adaptive. evaluate situations, and change accordingly for you to be able to succeed in that. You have to be very decisive because it's all about decisions. The decisions you make will either make you or break you. The former presenter said, some of us are a sum total of the decisions that we have made. And nobody here will tell me that you're not a sum total of the decisions you've made. Some of us are crying, or some of us are laughing because of the decisions that we have made. Self-awareness. Every entrepreneur is aware of his strengths and weaknesses, because it is your strength and that of your team that determines the success of an idea. It is your understanding of your strengths and weaknesses and that of your team that determines the success of your business. What are you capable of doing and what are you not able to do? So that what you're not able to do, you can bring in someone who has or who complements what you don't have. So it is about understanding self and your team. Risk again. If you're not someone who takes risks that we said, you cannot be an entrepreneur. Because entrepreneurship is nothing other than risk taking. So what is your tolerance to risk? If you're this kind of a person who is so scared, hata kuishi yenyewe inakushtua, then you cannot become an entrepreneur. Next. View of failure, a very important aspect of entrepreneurship. I have not talked about business. I'm still holding so that I could revisit that topic of the difference between the two. Business people get worried when their businesses fail. Entrepreneurs are happy when they fail because to them, they associate failure with an opportunity for them to do what? To learn. So to them, there's no failure. If you don't achieve what you intended to achieve, it becomes an opportunity for you to learn why you did not achieve. So to them, failure is not associated with them. There is no failure for entrepreneurs. But it is a moment for them to learn. It is a moment for them to learn. Innovative thinking, an innovative mind is an entrepreneurial mindset. If you want to become an entrepreneur, you must embrace an entrepreneurial mindset. A mindset that is always looking for new ways of doing things. You can't be an entrepreneur if you want to do things the same way. You know, some people tell you, when you get employed in a company, sisi hapa tunafanyaga vitu hivi, and then you are an entrepreneur. So how are you supposed to respond to such a person? And you're coming to bring change in this organization. Unamwambia ni sawa, lakini mimi I'm here on a different mission. Let me see how you do it and maybe help you how to do it better. So to entrepreneurs, there's nothing like this is how we do things here. Because we are always looking for better ways of doing things. Nothing stops you from changing what you do. So ma'am, I don't know what you do at RHEMA Sanctuary, but the issue is there a better way of doing things? Is there a better way? Like at times we feel if church goes for so long, some people may sleep and not get the message that we really want them to get. Others will run away from church because it's too long. So is that a wake-up call for us to change how we do things? Unless we look inside out to see how best and engage the people so that we do things differently. Future-oriented. Business people, if I'm allowed to say, I give examples of business people with the canteen. Unajua, kwa kijiji, I don't know whether you people come from villages where somebody has a shop. That shop has been there all the years, selling the same things year in, year out. And this man comes to open the shop maybe saa 5, anarudi akifungua shop, anakuja anakaa chini ya mti hapo, wazee wanakuja, alafu wanaanza kucheza ile mchezo ya, I don't know whether you people come from those villages and you have those canteens. Tulikuwa tunaita canteen. Can you visualize that canteen in your village? Huyo haja yake tu ni afungue duka, mtu mmoja wawili wakuje wanunue kitu, ndio jioni anunue kakuota kanyama na anunue kamkate. Because those are the most ideal things for this person. So issues of future, issues of growth, not for him. So him is living for today. Today. But when we talk of entrepreneurs, they are future-oriented. They are thinking about today and tomorrow in their mind. So whatever they are doing today, with tomorrow in their mind. The church today, I'm sure you're already asking yourself, where will you be 5 years from now? Because you're not just interested about today. Why are you empowering these people? It's because you have a future for them. You're not just seeing them here today, but you're seeing them tomorrow. Not just in Kenya. I remember the prophet saying that he doesn't want to empower us for here, but he is empowering us to even go and plant churches elsewhere. So future, he's not doing it for today, he's doing it for tomorrow. So entrepreneurs have tomorrow in their mind. The characteristics are endless. So I want to say that what distinguishes and what makes an entrepreneur who he is are those characteristics. So now my big question is, if I'm asked, what is the difference between an entrepreneur and a business person? What would I say? Number one, entrepreneurs must first study or scan the environment to understand the environment so that they can identify the opportunities that exist in the market. Business people, I'm sorry, but this is what it is. Some of us don't even collect data, don't even scan the environment to understand our environment. Unakuta Kamau alianzisha viatu na unaona Kamau amenunua gari, unasema hata mimi nitaanza viatu. Copy and paste. Copy and paste. You have not studied the market. Unafanya because Kamau alifanya. Na Kamau alinunua gari, hujui kama Kamau ni mwizi, na Kamau anatufunika macho na kuuza nini? Viatu. Si ni ukweli? Yes. So one of the differences between entrepreneurs and business people is scanning the environment. Entrepreneurs will not start until they scan the environment to understand that environment and identify the opportunities that exist in that environment. Number two, marshalling resources or gathering resources. You don't get started until everything has been put in place. Business, tunaanzaga ukipewa 20,000, unaanzisha only to discover that 20,000 is not enough to run the business. You didn't even know how much. Somebody said you must do a business plan, which is very true. You must come up with a business plan to identify the resources that you need. And I always tell my students, if it is 200,000, can you make it 600? Because for about 6 months, you may not break even. It's going to be loss, 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 loss. And the second month, if it's a loss, you're supposed to inject some money. From where? Hapo ndio tunakimbia kule tulikuwa tunaambiwa tusikimbie. Shylock. Hapo ndio tunakimbia. So lack of planning. Number 3, risk taking. Entrepreneurs don't take risks. And this is why they wait for people to start for them to copy. Copy and paste. Ndio unakuta wamama kama 6 wamekaa pamoja doing the same thing. They don't want to risk. They only want to start what others have started. Because the monkey waters have been tested for them. So there's no risk taking in business. Most of us are just doing what everybody else is doing. And in the end, we are copying each other and we cannot make any profit, because if Kamau is selling shoes, Jogona is selling shoes, Omondi is selling shoes. So what is the difference? And how do you expect to make sales when all of us are copying each other? Value addition. Value addition. Entrepreneurship is about value addition. I'll be evidencing the value addition shortly. Take a business opportunity. Ask yourself, what value can you add to that opportunity and maximize out of that opportunity? I believe that will be the icing of the cake when we try to look at the different opportunities that exist for us and how we can maximize out of what is available for us. Next is wealth creation. So once you've added value, by extension, you create wealth. Because if you were just to make money out of one business stream, if you add value, you are going to generate maybe from 5 other streams. And in the end, you are going to generate a lot of wealth from that opportunity. The last one is growth and expansion. Entrepreneurs are all interested in growth and expansion. Business people are only interested in survival. This is why them say in the canteen is only interested in money to buy kakwota, ndio at least kwake pia kunuke nini? Nyama. Na anunue Taifa Leo, hata yeye akienda nyumbani aonekane amesoma gazeti. Na pia abebe kamkate kwa sababu ako na mjukuu. Kwa hivyo lazima hata yeye apeleke mkate nyumbani. So for him, growth and expansion is not in his list of his worries. So when we talk of entrepreneurship, we can draw a line between business and entrepreneurship. So to us who are entrepreneurs, we will say that all entrepreneurs are businessmen, but not all businessmen are entrepreneurs. All entrepreneurs are businessmen, but not all businessmen are entrepreneurs, because there are things that entrepreneurs are doing that business people are not doing. So my question to you this afternoon, are you an entrepreneur or are you a mere business person? What are you? Who are you? From that definition, are you just somebody there waiting to get sai kumekuwa kubaya? People are just surviving. So where do you have time to do all this? So many people today could be just mere business people. Mere business people. At least something that can put food on the table. So the other important thing for us to do is to now get to some assignment that will help us in trying to get our footing. So that at the end of it all, are we able to look around and see what exists for us to exploit? So what is the difference between an idea and an opportunity? What is the difference between an idea and an opportunity? Or are they the same? Are they the same? Idea, opportunity? Well, we may think they are, but they are not. So an idea is just an understanding of yourself, of the market, and the product and services. So if you have an idea, it means you know of what you are able to do. You know yourself, you know your capabilities, because it starts from self. I know myself. I know of the market. And when I teach my students, I tell them market is not a place. So let's not define a market to be a place. Market is not a place, but are people who have two characteristics. A market is made up of people who are willing and able to buy your product and services. So the question is, do you identify a market of people who are willing and able to buy what you are offering? Until you're sure there is a market for you of people who are willing and able to buy from you, then that is not an idea for you. And finally, someone who understands your product or services. Do you know what you want to offer in the market? That is an idea. So an idea is an understanding of yourself. Because remember, you'll put yourself out there. Put yourself out there. Do you have what it takes to deliver what you are saying you want to deliver? Do you have the people who are willing and able to buy what you want to offer? And do you understand that product and that service that you are offering? If those three questions are correct for you, then you have an idea of what you want to offer. So at what time does the idea become an opportunity? At what point does the idea become an opportunity? It becomes an opportunity when you, the entrepreneur, decides to invest in it. Once you make an investment decision, and when we talk about investment, we are talking about money, we are talking about time, we are talking about effort. Time, money, and effort. When you choose to make an investment decision, that is an opportunity. So we need to differentiate between an idea and an opportunity. So some will still remain ideas because you have not made a decision to put in some money, some time, and effort into it. The other presenter was giving us reasons why we need to engage people to help us. So here, you need to do a business plan, and it is the business plan that will help you move from an idea to an opportunity. And those of us who will not plan, you're planning to fail. Because a business plan is simply a 1 million project that is being tested on paper. So instead of spending the 1 million and it fails, maybe hire a consultant to do a business plan for you. I could charge 50,000. So you're going to save your 950. You'll only lose 50,000. So that business plan will tell you this is a good idea or it is a bad idea. Carry on or drop it there or wait. Like now, the way things are, even if the idea may be good, you may. Yes. So it is very important for us to understand how we move from an idea to an opportunity. So next, what do we look for? What do we look for? What do we look for? Yes, there are factors to look for. There are factors to look for. So these factors are very, very important. They are very, very important. And if these factors are put into consideration, then we can say that we have a good idea. So some of the things you must do is that make sure that this idea is going to be an idea that has good return on investment. Good return on investment. It is an idea that you can scale up. It is an idea you can scale up. Because something that you cannot scale up is not a good idea, because you may lose everything that you have invested. So a good idea is one that you can start small and grow it to become a big idea later. Also, we need to understand that it is a project that has market growth. Are you starting with very few customers, but you can see that the market can grow? If these things are not there, then it might be tricky for you. The other one is the technology. The other one is the technology. If the technology keeps changing very fast, then that is not a good business opportunity. So there is a checklist of what you need to look for in these ideas so that you don't get yourself into a problem. So because of time, I want to just present some pictures of a project that I have participated in walking the journey. And the other thing, like I have said, any idea that cannot be scaled up is not a good idea. So I want to show you that entrepreneurship is a concept that appreciates humble beginning. And I want to link it up with the Bible, because the Bible says, don't despise humble beginnings. Zechariah 3:10 says, don't despise humble beginnings. Most of us have remained where we are because we want to be like so and so. So and so umemkuta akiwa kwa supermarket, hujui alianza wapi. So as I wind up, allow me to just walk you the journey allow me to just walk you the journey that I have walked a client from a humble beginning, and today this client who started in a kitchen is serving 8 counties. So the question is, are you where you are because you claim you don't have what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur? What could you start in your house and build to become a brand in Kenya? So I want to just share some pictorials of a client who I'm walking the journey so that you can understand what it means to start a humble journey. So this is the clip. So that is a business started in somebody's kitchen. Let's move on. So they are processing milk. Number 2. The second phase. Next. The third phase. Next. The products that have been made. And when she started in her kitchen with candles. But now you can see, she even has an outlet. She's selling in a supermarket. Now that is her farm. Those are just a few animals that she has. And with those few animals, because she's not able, she has outsourced her milk from a very reliable entrepreneur. And the houses that you saw are the product of the business, because she has now started diversifying. She has a farm, and out of the proceeds she has made from her milk, she is making beautiful houses because it is located in Nanyuki. Nanyuki, we have the British Army. The British Army are looking for houses, and these are the houses that the British Army have taken. In fact, our kitchen, the wives of the soldiers just walk in and take what they want and make payment. So my message to you today is, we are where we are because at times we want to start big. This couple is now selling in 8 counties. The last one is Nairobi. She has landed in Nairobi. She sent me to Rwanda to represent this company in an expo. And it's only that she felt that she was not ready. Rwanda was ready to have her start her products in Rwanda. So my current call to us is, what are the opportunities for us today? Do you have cows? What are you doing with the cows? Are you just milking? I talked about value addition. Are you just milking and selling milk? You could be the next millionaire, because she tells me now she's in her millions. She's in her millions. Being her consultant, she's open enough to tell me she's in her millions. And I want to end it by saying that the Kenya Kwanza government has actually seen the importance in agriculture. So agriculture and the manufacturing industry have been linked up. The government has identified 13 value chains. 13 value chains. What are these value chains identified by the government? You will not go wrong if you position yourself in one of the value chains, because that is where the money is. That is where the money is. We may not complete the stories here. We may not complete to show you how you can plug in into any one of these value chains, but we are available and we are willing to walk you the journey so that you can start from your kitchen and be able to move on to the 8 counties. Thank you and God bless you.